Yes, indeed. We do continue. It is Three Dog Thursday in our video roundtable on YouTube. And again, it worked so well last time before Thanksgiving with a one-woman roundtable, Shannon Spake of Fox Sports. We're going to go with a one-man roundtable this time from the Sports Gambling Podcast. Sean Green, my man, is back. Love my West Coast gambling podcast brother from another mother. Good to have you here. And they need to come find us and see us on the YouTube video roundtable because obviously we have faces for podcasts. Good to have you, my friend.
Exactly. Yeah, I had a great holiday. And I told you before the show, it was cool hearing, I was driving back on a Sunday and I was listening to the Sirius radio calls and got to hear you on the Bucs radio broadcast, hearing you cover their cover. They didn't win the game, but they did cover the 3.5. So
that's true.
That was fun.
That was the one that we got right on Three Dog Thursday. I would have much rather had a victory, but we'll take the cover for underdog purposes, and we'll get into all of this. Love Sean's insight, by the way. He and Ryan Kramer, Colby Dan, and everybody with the Sports Gambling Podcast, sportsgambling.com, sportsgamblingpodcast.com, and everything that they do. Love his insight here on the program, and thank you for the kind words there hanging out. Interesting that at the time that you were listening, and I had a couple of people ring in, that we were the only game going at 4:30 Eastern time, 1:30 in the West, by design, by CBS and the league, because it was Mahomes and the Chiefs against the Buccaneers. So such a big game. And I saw the ratings a little while ago have finally finalized that there were over 24 million people that were watching that game on Sunday. So the NFL is still king in the television world. All right, so that's a good place for us to begin with all of this, because we're going to work our way through my misery with the Bucs, your misery with your Eagles, then get to some college football in a little bit as well. So I want to get to this here with respect to the Chiefs and what we saw last week. I saw this firsthand, sir, with Tyreek Hill. There he is, that's not the peace sign. That's 2 up for my second touchdown. Sean, he had 203 yards receiving in the first quarter of the game. Could have very easily, it seemed like, had a 300-yard game. They just have so many other weapons with Kelsey and Hardman in the backs out of the backfield. All right, so that's me saying it. The Chiefs look devastating at field level in person. What do you have to say now that they have advanced to 10-1 on the year and are the defending champs?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's so many storylines going on in the NFL this season. The fact that the Chiefs are just quietly dominating and looking like they're on pace to come back and win the Super Bowl again, it's just not hitting everyone's register. There's so much else going on. But, yeah, I mean, that offense, when that offense is clicking, look out. And it's clicking for most of the time. I was kicking myself for not having Tyreek Hill, and we do a daily fantasy lineup for the Millionaire Maker for DraftKings, and I'm kicking myself for not having Tyreek Hill in this matchup. The Bucs defense, it's weird. They've been pretty good throughout the season overall, but they've struggled with the deep ball. And I remember I watched I had a bet on them on the Bucs when they played the Chargers, and Herbert kind of lit them up a little bit with that deep ball, and he really uncorked some. And I should have seen this coming, that a guy like Tyreek Hill is just so tough to cover, and you throw in their defensive issues in the secondary when it comes to covering the deep ball. That should have just been an obvious spot. But I mean, top to bottom, the Chiefs have great coaching, great quarterback play. Mahomes on pace to be the MVP once again, and not a lot of holes on this Chiefs team right now, top to bottom. And, you mentioned my Eagles certainly could use the coaching prowess of Andy Reid right now. Doug Peterson struggling to put together an offensive game plan, and Carson Wentz struggling to execute it.
All right, so we'll get into that here in just a second. But, back to the whole thing with Mahomes and the arm strength, seeing that at field level. And, again, I'm making them out to almost seemingly be invincible. We know Pittsburgh has been very good in the AFC so far. Buffalo, can they hang in with them or not? The Raiders, would they get a third crack at them in a rubber match? Did beat them earlier this year. I don't know that the Tennessee Titans were the surprise team last year. I don't think we should make the mistake, I'm not saying you are, of handing it just to Kansas City in the AFC, right?
Yeah, and certainly, especially with the way the playoffs are set up this year, that number one seed is going to be huge, I think, on both the NFC and AFC side. The fact that only one of those teams gets a bye and the fact that they get home field throughout, I think, especially in this year, uh, maybe the home field with the crowd not as big as it normally is, but you look at a team like Pittsburgh with an aging veteran quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger. He doesn't want to have to play that AFC Championship game in Kansas City. He doesn't want to have to get on a plane and fly out there, nursing all his old man injuries, the back, whatever he's got going, the elbow. I mean, you know how it gets when you get a little bit older. Things just start falling apart. He wants to be able to stay at home, sleep in his own bed, and I think that'll be huge. So if Pittsburgh can hang on to that number one spot, lock that in for the playoffs, that's going to be big. And I think that's their best chance to slow down the Chiefs, who have one loss to the Raiders, and it looked like the Raiders almost had a chance to get another one against them. I don't know what it is. The Raiders are the only team that seems to be able to figure out the Chiefs right now, but I certainly wouldn't complain about a Steelers-Chiefs AFC Championship game.
No, not at all. And again, Tennessee is rounding into form. I mean, they devastated Indianapolis last weekend with Derrick Henry running the ball. They'd love another crack at Kansas City. But again, it looks like under the current scenario, because the Titans have lost, 4 times or 5 times. There's no way they're going to be able to host ultimately a playoff game with the Chiefs. They would have to go beat them there again in Kansas City. We will see in the AFC. That's the voice of Sean Green with me, sports gambling podcast here as part of our YouTube roundtable. If you're only hearing us on the Sports Gambling Podcast network of shows through Three Dog Thursday, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, however you found us, social media link, come find the video roundtable here as part of Three Dog Thursday. Search Three Dog Thursday on YouTube. You'll see what we look like. You'll see the video that we're making reference to, et cetera, et cetera. Find us on YouTube. Okay, I waited long enough. I waited as long as I possibly could. And the photos, sometimes pictures say 1,000 words or they say it all. That says it all for your Philadelphia Eagles, as we're seeing on the YouTube roundtable here. Carson Wentz and a Monday night loss to the Seahawks, not only on him, but again, offensive line really struggling with backups, lacking in the skill positions, not the offensive punch. And suddenly now a couple of the NFC East teams have been winning some games, so they're no longer in first place in the East. All right, you get to pick it up here. You apologize for those Eagles even out on the West Coast. What is going on?
Yeah, I mean, I wish it was just one thing. If I could just say, oh, it's just the offensive line injuries. Oh, it's just Carson Wentz struggling with accuracy. Oh, it's just Doug Peterson not being able to drop a game plan. Oh, it's just the fact that he insists on playing Jason Peters, even though the rugby kid, Jordan Mailata, looks so much better at left tackle. Like, it's been a colossal failure on all levels. And the defense has had some moments where they've looked pretty good. I mean, that was a pretty decent performance against a high-powered Seattle offense. Now, you don't expect to shut them out, but they kept them within striking distance, and the offense just couldn't do anything. They couldn't put up points, and that's really kind of been the story. I just don't understand Carson Wentz completely falling off a cliff, and, it's just been bad. I mean, I'm fine with Jalen Hurts, giving him a start just to see. I think Carson Wentz needs a break. He needs whatever's going on. It feels like it's a lot mental, because I think the kid still has a lot of talent. He still has a lot of physical ability. He's just not seeing the field well, which you need to see the field well as a quarterback. Jameis Winston knows that all too well, a guy who had to get eye surgery. But I think you need to do him a favor and sit him down for a little bit. And I think Doug Peterson needs to give a play calling.
Fair to say, Wentz has regressed at this point. As good as he was maybe even a couple of years ago, the decision-making, the things that you're saying, you could see that right now. I don't think that's unfair. I don't think that's a cheap shot, right?
No, that's not. He's just looked way worse. And even this season's been weird, because there's been moments where you've seen flashes of old Carson where he looks really good, rolling out, making a couple plays here or there, connecting on some deep balls, which, of course, the receivers dropped. So there's been moments where he has looked a little bit like his old self, but especially this past month, these 3 or 4 games, there's just nothing positive to say about him or his game. It's really sad for a guy who has a giant Carson Wentz fathead on our washer dryer, it is tough times because I'm itching to pull that thing down because it's just a reminder of this young, dominant quarterback we had almost getting the MVP, setting themselves, he was a huge reason they won the Super Bowl, getting them to 11-2 before getting knocked out, setting up that home field advantage for Nick Foles to take advantage of. And now it's just I can't even argue for him to start. It's really it's just a huge bummer as an Eagles fan. But as a gambler, I just got to keep picking against them.
There you go. And they did get the cover, just like the Bucs. They got the late cover with the late garbage touchdown to even it up. All right, so we'll move off. I promise you now, we'll move off of the NFL and bemoaning your Eagles. By the way, I should just make mention while we're plugging things, we should do this for my man, Sean Green. His great new comedy album is out, and we've been promoting this because you're a stand-up comedian by trade. This Loss Hurts Us All is available right now. They can download it through iTunes, through Apple Music, buy it through Amazon. You see all the links right there. This comes from a phrase from your father about Eagles games in the past. Just will not go away. The losing won't go away. So right here it is on the YouTube roundtable on the video. This loss hurts us all. There's where you can get it on your different outlets. Search it. It's hilarious. It's great stuff. Plug there one more time, my friend. I'm not trying to, just belabor how bad the Eagles are, but in some ways it's therapeutic for you to just riff on the Eagles because this loss hurts us all.
It is great to rant. And of course, that was something my dad yelled out. I have the whole story on the album, but it's something my dad yelled out after the Eagles got destroyed by the Arizona Cardinals in prime time. It was kind of the end of the Chip Kelly era. So kind of fitting that I released this album and possibly now trigger the end of the Doug Peterson era. Yeah, I mean, if you like sports and you like comedy, I think everyone checks it out. Should have a little bit of fun there. A lot of Eagles stories and just it's just so frustrating. But hey, we're a fan, so I'll be forced to watch the game this Sunday against the Packers. I'll be there wearing my Eagles jersey. I'm not optimistic, but again, I have a feeling it could be another painful loss coming up this Sunday.
All right. Still more to come here on the NFL with Brian Edwards in our final segment. Let's segue and talk a little college football and the midweek controversy. I have already addressed this with Brian, but I want your take. Again, you're West Coast, based in LA with the Sports Gambling Podcast. This whole thing, this whole notion with the Big Ten and what are they going to do, especially if Ohio State can't finish the season here with 6 games, and are they going to change it? And, of course, Kirk Herbstreit, the lead analyst for ESPN, essentially the top analyst in college football, suggested midweek at the time that we're taping that Michigan might not purposely might not want to play Ohio State just to sabotage their chances at the Big Ten title game. They might opt out. Herbstreit, we're now watching on the video, then took to social media after the TV show. This was fascinating, Sean. On the TV show, Reese Davis said, do you want to amend your comments, essentially, to any of the guys when they kicked it around? And Herbstreit didn't do it then live. And I don't know what was going on with that, but then he took it upon himself to release this video, apologize to Harbaugh, apologize to Michigan fan. This is an Ohio State guy apologizing to Michigan fan as he did here. Sean, as we come back on screen, what do you make of that? And Michigan did end up pausing, and they're not going to play this weekend. Their game is canceled. There is a rumor that they may be done for the year. Did Herbstreit spill the beans too quickly? What did you make of all of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, you're talking smack on a college pregame show. You don't need to apologize. I've said some horrible things about the Dallas Cowboys. You're never going to catch me apologizing. Come on. I mean, clearly he meant what he said, and there's something to it. We've seen these teams. I mean, down in Florida, Florida State has had some pretty interesting last-minute cancellations. Of course, the bigger issue is each one of these conferences has their own set of protocols, their own set of rules, their own set of standards when it comes to cancellation. So that's why we've had this kind of just, complete disaster when it comes
to
the games
Wild
being
West.
played.
Make it up as you go along.
Everyone's making up the rules as they go along. So for him to kind of speculate, I watched it. I thought he was just kind of having fun with them. Like, hey, they're going to wave the white flag. I'm sure there's plenty of kids on that Michigan football team playing their hearts out, yada, yada, yada. But come on, it's a TV show. We're having fun. Everyone knows he's an Ohio State apologist, and he wants Ohio State to get into the Big Ten championship game, and rightfully so. Also, like, I just don't get it. Like, these rules, the whole thing about COVID in 2020 is we have to remain flexible. So why is the Big Ten forcing themselves to put other teams besides Ohio State in the Big Ten championship? If other teams are canceling their games, that shouldn't be punishing Ohio State. They should have an option to reschedule out of conference games or reschedule a different Big Ten opponent, whatever it is. Try and put the best product out there for the fans, and really for these Ohio State kids, try and give them the best chance of having a season. It just doesn't make sense that the Big Ten is almost punishing themselves with the enforcement of possibly these rules. So I get it. You want everything to be fair, but you also have to realize, hey, stuff changes. I mean, all of a sudden, next thing you know, there's a game on Wednesday night in the NFL. Is it fair? No, but we're trying to figure things out as we go. So I don't think you should have apologized, and maybe he was on to something. If he really called this is we got to get him on the Sports Gambling Podcast, because that's one hell of a lead pipe lock there.
Well, I think he has coaches talking to him, and I think in this case, coaches that were upset were like Dabo Swinney, who thought that Florida State ducked him, like you were mentioning. And I think
he's got
talking,
kids on. His kids are on the Clemson team, so I'm sure he's hearing
got a pipeline
straight from the horse's mouth.
I think he probably had talked to Ryan Day, and Ryan Day may have privately expressed to him, "Hey, they may do this just to screw us out of the Big Ten title game."
Yes.
And now he's spilling that on national TV and realizing I got to like fishing. I got to reel that back in here while he's spilling that. So. Interesting on that. A few more moments with Sean Green, Sports Gambling Podcast. He and Ryan Kramer do a great job. We are thrilled with Three Dog Thursday to be part of their network, Sports Gambling Podcast network of shows with Three Dog Thursday. This is the YouTube roundtable, and we're looking on the screen once more at the team. I worked their game on Saturday, Alabama and Auburn in the Iron Bowl. I will say this, Sean, I've seen Alabama 3 times. I've not seen Clemson in person. I've not seen Notre Dame in person. We were talking about this earlier in the podcast. I don't know who's beating these guys on a neutral field. Maybe Clemson can, maybe Notre Dame can. If Ohio State gets there, and there's a great debate whether they should be there if they've only played 5 or 6 games. But this guy, Devontae Smith, is an NFL top 10 pick at receiver, and he's gotten even better, even without Jalen Waddle, the other great receiver who's been injured. They can't double team him. They can't stop him. This team runs the ball. This team, Alabama's defense, has played better. I think their defense is better than Clemson's defense. It's certainly better than Florida's defense. Notre Dame probably plays on par defense with Alabama. All right, Sean, I've said enough here, but we're looking at them on the video screen. Is Alabama the team to beat in this college football playoff real quick?
Well, we're on Three Dog Thursday, so I want to try and give you an angle on a dog, but I on our college football picks podcast, I keep throwing Alabama in my locks and my teases. You can never play them as a dog, but they've just been dominant, and they're even covering these massive spreads. You made a great point about Waddle, the injury. People thought like, okay, maybe this will slow down this Alabama offense. But Mac Jones, he's been playing really well at the quarterback position. You throw in this weird, wild COVID year, and coaching, I think, really stands out in years like this. And Saban is just getting them ready to go, and they're just dominating top to bottom. Certainly interesting as far as Trevor Lawrence. He missed a couple games because of COVID. He's come out with just a man on fire, and they're kind of really going out of their way to really I don't know, have some statement games here. I think the ACC will be pretty stoked to get Clemson and Notre Dame in there. So I think they were kind of happy that Notre Dame got that one loss against Clemson. And Clemson obviously has a great case of Trevor Lawrence was out. And of course they do factor in injuries when seeding these college football playoffs, but maybe Notre Dame, but I don't know, man. How do you pick against Alabama right now? There's almost no value in betting them because they're basically even money to win the championship, but it's tough picking another team right now.
It'll be interesting with Florida. And again, I live in the state of Florida. I did not go to the University of Florida. I am not a Gator. I'm not married to a Gator, but I'm around enough of them. They believe they can hang with Alabama, at least offensively. It'll be interesting. What is that line? In an SEC title game, if it's all equal and we get there and it's on a neutral field, is Alabama favored by 10? Are they favored by just a touchdown? I'll be curious what that line is in the SEC title game with Florida. And again, they have been devastating in covering these lines most of the year.
Yeah, and Florida, I think their defense will struggle with Alabama's speed and slowing them down. Although Kyle Trask, he was in our college football preview podcast. I threw out Kyle Trask as my Heisman Trophy pick. I think it was like 25 or 30-1 at the time we gave it out, and so I've been pretty excited with his performance so far.
You're
this
looking
season.
good, and he's got video game numbers. There is no doubt on that. That's for sure. Hey, one more, your quick opinion, and I don't have it for the video screen. We said this earlier. I am dumbfounded as we're taping this Three Dog Thursday podcast midweek. Why are Cincinnati and BYU not playing? Do you just blame Cincinnati that they aren't willing to take the risk? Because BYU clearly wanted to play somebody last week for a bye week, somebody this week. That is a logical game for both of them, for credibility, for the New Year's Six bowl games. Your opinion, please. Did Cincinnati they just don't want to take the risk before they play Tulsa next week, the 12th, and then the American Championship game? It looks like they've chickened out on taking a real risk that could help them maybe get into the top four. That's my take. What do you say?
Yeah, no, hard to disagree with you there. I mean, I think Cincinnati and BYU, they both need this game. If they want to be serious about getting in as kind of like the wild card there into the college football playoff, they need this game, and maybe they don't want to risk the loss, so they think maybe they can build a case, or maybe Cincinnati, the undefeated season matters more to them than risking the undefeated season and a chance at the college football playoff. Again, this is why, especially with this year, with the scheduling all over the place, it's the same complaint people have with boxing. Like, there just needs to be one commissioner in charge of everything. And, so we can see the fights we want to see. As a boxing fan, you host a big fight weekend. That's the biggest complaint with the boxing fans. Sometimes we don't get to see the fights we want to see, the fans want to see. And in college football, I'd love to watch that Cincinnati BYU game. That would be a very good game. Kind of a nice matchup style-wise. Style makes fights, TJ, as you know, and who wouldn't want to see that game? It's hard not to say they're chickening out unless they give us a reason otherwise.
Well, and again, and I said this earlier here on the podcast, that Cincinnati team needed a resume builder, and you would have a strong argument. Obviously,
Yes.
This is the point. If late in the year you beat BYU, let's say on a neutral field, if they couldn't agree, should it be home or away, play on a neutral field, then you beat Tulsa, who's good, in the final regular season game, and then win the American Championship, you could have a real argument in this crazy year. We should be in the four, even though we're not a Power 5 team because we finished undefeated. You don't have that argument right now, as far as I'm concerned, when you had a chance to do something about it. When they are still sixth or they're seventh, don't gripe to anybody when they're fifth or sixth and just out of the top four when you didn't take the chance and didn't play BYU. That's me saying that one more time. All right, so let me plug away once more with my guys on the Sports Gambling Podcast and their shows. Again, Ryan Kramer joins Sean Green. Colby Dan is in this shot that we're seeing here too from earlier in the week. Whether it's the college previews, Sean, whether it is the NFL previews, the fantasy football, they need to go to the sportsgamblingpodcast.com, at Gambling Podcast on social media. Go subscribe wherever you get podcasts. There you guys are, breaking it all down every week, whether it be on video or on audio. Go find it wherever you have podcasts. You guys have a great time. The following is built up. The hashtag is DGens only for the degenerate gamblers. This is your show. This is your haven right here, Sean Green.
Yes. Just Google Sports Gambling Podcast. Can't miss us. Putting out a ton of content, not only on our feed, but the Sports Gambling Podcast Network feed with Three Dog Thursday, Big Fight Weekend. We just launched a new MMA show that we got going, NBA. Of course, Colby Dant, the college experience. There's just a ton of content. If you like gambling, you like sports, head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Always good to chop it up with you, TJ, and enjoy having you on the network, man.
Hey, you were great to come on here. And again, publicly thank you to Sean, to Ryan, and the Sports Gambling Podcast guys. We're part of what they do on sportsgamblingpodcast.com and the network feed of shows. We'll try to improve with the underdogs. We struggled a little bit last week, but we've been good most of these weeks. So I'm anxious to scrap and get some more underdog successful predictions. You guys keep knocking them dead with the content coming out all the time on Sports Gambling Podcast and the feed of shows in sportsgamblingpodcast.com. They need to lock in. You guys are making people money with your locks, with your best bets, with your underdogs, with everything that you have. They need to go find you. Sean Green, thank you. I appreciate you hopping on here with me on Three Dog Thursday on the Video Roundtable.
Take it easy, TJ.
Great stuff from him. Again, Brian Edwards joins me one more time here to talk some NFL football in our final segment as we continue.